Welcome back to the show. The Brighter Side of Blue. We're in the basement of Columbo's, and we've got a little new format. You know, we did our live show on Thursday, which I hope you've seen, and if not, Marc is on that one too. So we tape that after, or we go live after this taping. But we have with us tonight, and JJ, where are we at again? Columbo's, right?
Columbo's home
Cafe, home of the Seabo's Pizza, right?
Right.
All right.
Tavern.
Well, we're gonna have to get our advertising in on all the shows now. We're doing a lot of different shows, so that way we don't have to scream them all into one show.
Perfect.
So, again, we appreciate all likes, shares, and subscriptions. If you do like what we're putting out, just like, subscribe, and comments. We love our comments. So, and do that. With no further ado, today we have with us Marc Wasem. And Marc, thank you for coming, and thank you for taking the time to come down here.
Thanks for having me. I've been watching. I've been really enjoying the shows, and it's great to be here.
So let's start out, and Marc's got a lot of great stories that you're going to hear. But Marc, let's start out with, because of your assignments, you were lucky enough to have a lot of good assignments over the years that put you in the position to do a lot of these cases we're going to talk about. What were your assignments?
Well, let's just start from the beginning. I came out as a patrolman as a rookie in the old 5th District north of St. Louis. Went to narcotics, went to the crime suppression unit, went to SWAT Mobile, then went on to most violent offenders, was at the 4th District for a minute, went back to the violent offenders, and then ultimately ended up in the Intel division with the FBI Fugitive Task Force. After that, I went to the academy for 2 years as an instructor. I was the DT instructor there, defensive tactics. Then went back to Intel, retired there a year ago, and now I'm at Washington University Police Department.
JJ?
Yeah, he's in Candyland now.
Okay.
But you know what?
I just had to tee that up for you.
Anybody deserves it is him.
All right.
Here are all those assignments.
So one of the cases that Marc was involved in, and a lot of these that you guys are going to remember from being on the news a lot, and I will say that Marc was one of those guys that, and JJ can back me up on this, is that whether it was homicide or narcotics or all these divisions would often call Marc to hunt down a guy or two, and he was pretty good at it, wasn't he, JJ?
Well, I actually used him, and I'll tell that story some point. But yeah,
Yep.
It was nice having his number you could call.
But one of the cases that he was involved in, you know, obviously it touches a lot of hearts, but was the Captain Dave Dorn case when he was murdered in 2020, and it was relative to the Shockley riots that were going on downtown. And Marc, tell us a little bit about that, of how you got involved and what happened.
Well, on the night that Captain Dorn was murdered, we were all Intel. We're in covert cars. We're the undercover. We're kind of monitoring the crowds. It all started downtown. It was getting, it was escalating. Things were getting crazy. We were, trying to call back to the real-time crime center about what's going on. And then the looting started. And what our job was that night was pretty much to follow the looters, because they would go in cars, like a group of cars would go from one spot and loot for a while and then move on to another spot. Well, we moved from downtown west, and we went to across Grand and up Dr. King. And I was actually at the pawn store probably about 10 minutes before Captain Dorn was murdered, because that's where the group went. We didn't know that there were still people inside, because we saw the glass was broken on the door. People, were running in and out, but we thought that had abandoned, and the group had moved on. So we went on to monitor the rest of the group and where they went to the next destination, because they were going all over the place, hitting all the strip malls. At that point, we heard the call come out that there was a shooting at the Lee's pawn shop on Dr. King, and then we later find out that it's Captain Dorn, and we're all devastated.
Let's go back. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Captain Dorn was the retired captain from the city. He went on and became the chief of police in one place or two different places. He was retired. He was retired. He became a chief in one of the small munis, and then he retired from there, I believe. And then this Lee Pawn Shop was his buddy's place,
right?
And he went down there on his own to give a little security to it. And that's where Marc comes in.
Yeah, he actually got a call in the middle of the night, and the kind of person that Captain Dorn was, help out a friend. He left and went by himself with his little revolver from and in his house, and went to the pawn shop to try and intervene and stop these people from looting in his friend's pawn shop. And he was there right as people were coming out, right as people were trying to loot, and he got shot and killed in front of it. They also, what also sad about the story is that no one everyone was there. There was people there that witnessed the shooting. No one went to render aid to them. And some of the aftermath was caught on social media, and it was put out there for the whole world to see. It was devastating. So to fast forward, we finished that night. We did all our stuff, and then once we found out that it was Captain Dorn and all that kind of stuff, Homicide reached out to us. We were the intel unit. We were the FBI Fugitive Task Force, and we had a list of identified individuals that were in that pawn store. And we were going to go, find them, and we had cars and all that kind of stuff. And that's what led us to all these investigations for fugitives. The first stop was pretty much up on John and 20th. We hit a house. We watched it for a while. We got a search warrant, hit it, and it kind of led things from one place to the next. So we ended up getting all these fugitives, but the main fugitive, the shooter, Stephan Cannon, we couldn't find initially. And thank God that Crime Stoppers out there, and people just, we love Crime Stoppers. I never, to back it up, everything in my realm of fugitive tools, Crime Stopper was one of the best. I never treated any Crime Stopper tip like it just blow it off or anything like that. Every tip is good. But anyway, on this one, we got some information. He was out at an apartment complex at Hanley and 70 off Dragonwick. And we identify a girlfriend out there. We do all our fugitive stuff. We go out there and we set up. And we're set up in the courtyard, watching the courtyard where this girlfriend lives. And he comes out with another individual. We see him, we identify him, we swoop down on him, we get him into custody. He had a pistol on him. I thought we had struck gold. I thought it might have been the pistol that killed Captain Dorn, but it wasn't. It was just an additional. But he was bragging to his friends about killing Captain Dorn. And this all came out in the court. We testified. It's all over now. Stephan Cannon got life in prison for the murder of Captain Dorn.
Good.
But it was just a long investigation. We got everybody in town except for one person fled to Florida, and we knew that. And the marshals were waiting for him when he stopped in Florida at his destination and was taken into custody. So everyone in that pawn shop was taken into custody and charged.
Now, as you're getting these guys, is there any cooperators as you go? Is there anybody talking to you and giving you other information?
The families and friends were not, because we had, they were all kind of connected because they were following each other. Some of these people that we were looking for were actually connected in some way, either by family or by friends, and they were following each other, and they were in groups. They were a group together. RCIs, which are golden, and Crime Stoppers, which is golden, is the one that broke the case and brought him to justice.
Really?
Good.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And then how many guys you think you've got out of that? How many people did you get that just came out of that pawn shop?
There were 7 people that we were assigned, and we got all 7.
And how long did it take you guys?
Not very long. It was less than a week.
So, and then Homicide was doing the investigation too. Were they giving you guys the names, or who was giving you guys the names, or were you guys working it up too?
They were. They would give us leads, and we would work up the leads. They had a lot of investigators going. It was all hands on deck. One, it was a chaotic night, and there were so many crimes that night, and it was crazy. But they ran point. And we were just their tool, their assist to go find people, and they would come up with information. And then we reached out to RCIs that we have because that's, like I said, that's the lifeline for fugitives is CIs. And they would give us information, and we get these tips. And because it was such a high-profile case, it was on the news a lot, and Crime Stopper was getting these tips. So we treated everyone like it was a good tip, and we followed up all the way to the end. Either it was or it wasn't, and that's what led to Stephan Cannon's arrest.
But even if they weren't good tip, they were close.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
A lot of times you're not given the exact information, but the guy you might grab might know something, because if you get a call from Crime Stoppers and go, that guy knows about that case, well, it doesn't mean he was involved in it.
Right. And we used our techniques of interviewing people when we were actually. We did get people into custody. They had other crimes that they were wanted for or something like that. We would talk to them, bring them to the side, and a lot of times we would get information that way.
And talk a little bit about, I'm sorry, JJ, talk a little bit about the emotion that's involved too when you're catching these guys. And I remember, a couple of the cases, particularly Bob Stanzi, where there's just emotion, and there's guys and then like you said, chaotic. You don't know exactly what's going on. And then you got that guy, and talk about your emotions when you get that guy.
Well, this one was really personal to me because I knew Captain Dorn. Everyone knew Captain Dorn. He was a great policeman. He would have done anything. He was one of those commanders that it didn't matter that he was a commander. He would talk to you on a normal personal basis. So that brought the personal level up for us, especially a lot of us older fugitive guys, like myself and Joe Custard and James Wilcox. We got out there and we were looking, and when we found them, it was just like a relief came in. Everyone was happy and all that kind of stuff. But we knew it wasn't over because we didn't know, if there was more people, what evidence they need. But we knew that, and we've done it for a long time. And like Joe Custer's is my mentor when it comes to fugitives. He knows more about fugitives and apprehension than anyone in the world.
We should. He was down there for 30 years.
Well, he could play softball really well.
Right. That was his original sign. But he got good at what he did.
Yes. And so it was everyone was happy that we got him into custody because we were fairly confident that was the person that shot Captain Dorn. And after that, it was proven facts, and they went through the trial, and I testified, and everyone testified, and it was just, I think it was good for the city that, hey, we got him quickly. It wasn't like, oh, this guy shot a policeman and he ended up, he was in the hospital for 10 days because the police caught him, kind of deal.
Right.
We handle everything professional because we didn't want it to go down that way where it gets thrown out because of something.
Because you lost your temper.
Yeah, we lost our temper because
right.
You know what he did. He needed to resist. Is what that some
right.
policemen think. That'll come back to bite you. Young policemen or policemen that are inexperienced kind of go down that road sometimes, and that's what will kill a case.
Right.
Especially on a personal case. This you catch fugitives all the time, but one that who's a policeman who everyone loved. He was my first captain. You just can't say enough good words about him. He was just a funny, great guy.
Right.
So for that, that's the heightened that you guys to finish it off is awesome, and then be able to do it so quickly. That's a hats off to you guys. Now, one other question: were they all identified through the video, like facial recognition, or is it?
No, some of them were identified after we found that one of the cars that was stopped, or that was at the was identified at the pawn store. That was related to the house we did a search warrant on John.
Okay.
Then names started coming out of that.
Okay.
Because we had the driver of that car in custody, and things kind of snowballed after that. Plus, the homicide was doing all their work, and but we were trying to use facial rec and some other stuff, but mainly it was just tips and that first search warrant on John.
Good old-fashioned police work.
Yeah.
And you were involved in a group of people that were involved in all this. You mentioned a couple, and then there's homicide guys,
Yep,
narcotics guys, and when that stuff goes down. But is there anything that you remembered about the trial that stuck out to you? I mean, did you have to testify in that trial?
Yeah, I testified. Nothing really stuck out other than how much support that the defendant had, that Stephan Cannon had there in the courtroom.
Really? I think say the other way around.
Well, there was a lot of police and a lot of family and friends for Captain Dorn, but there was also a lot on that side. And you know how it is in the courtroom in that hallway, and you're sitting there and they're sitting there and you're waiting for the court to start and for the judge to call you in and the sheriffs and stuff like that. It gets a little tense, and
right.
You got to be professional. You got to keep your mouth shut, and you just got to, because the goal is to get that conviction, to get the jury to believe that, hey, this is what happened, which, the murder of Captain Dorn, and everyone on that, did a really good job.
And that his anniversary was not too long ago, a month or so ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The anniversary of the incident.
Yep. And then, Marc, it was June 2nd of 2020 is when it happened.
And and his wife Ann Dorn is she still on?
No, she retired a while.
She retired as a sergeant, correct? And so God bless the family, and that was a great work by you guys, but on an unfortunate incident. So
yeah, Marvin Tier did an awesome job, the prosecutor, and the whole circuit attorney's office, really came through on that one.
Right, they had a lot of bad pub, but I do remember everybody giving Marvin his accolades on that.
Great attorney.
Yep.
So we're gonna move on to another high-profile case, and it was, what year was the ATM Solutions thing? Probably 2012.
9 or yeah.
2012.
It was
somewhere about that.
Actually, yeah, I think.
But it was the ATM Solutions case, and there was reportedly, a little over $6 million taken. And there was a gentleman involved in that, and his name was Myron Kimble. He was one of the three, and as usual, somebody called Marc and says, I believe Joe Cruz, you were working with Joe Cruz at the time, but you were the grunt, and they said, can you go get Myron Kimble? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the ATM Solutions was a high-profile robbery that no one believed could have been done, but it was. There was a lot of good breaks in that case, and there was 5 people that were part of this robbery. There was other ones that hid money and all that kind of stuff.
Let's explain the robbery.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Like so, the cucks like Myron Kimble and a guy named John Wesley Jones were the masterminds of the ATM Solutions. They got together. They said, hey, there's a garage in the middle of nowhere, a brick garage in the middle of nowhere, and you would never know that there's millions and millions of dollars in this garage. So they set up on this garage for weeks. But then when it came down to it, Myron wasn't really putting in, he was the mastermind, but he wasn't really putting in the time. So the 4 guys, John, Wesley Jones, and others, actually completed the robbery, did the robbery, it's close to SLU's campus. It's literally a cinder block garage with a entry garage and an exit garage. And you would never know that there's $20 million in this.
Kind of like a Sally Port?
Yeah.
Where you
and it's very
small.
through. And we're all like, and all of us policemen were like, we never even knew that was even there,
right.
All that kind of stuff. So what they do, the 4 people that do it's John Jones, Rashane Money, Larry Newman, and Aaron Johnson. They actually set up, the first guard shows up, the first guy that's working at ATM Solutions shows up, and they grab him up and they walk him inside. A second guard shows up, they grab him up and they bring him inside. They load off a pallet, they put all this money into back of an ATM Solution armored car. But it's not like an armored car where we think in the movies is this big thing. It's a van, armored van.
Right.
What it is.
Without the all the printings and stuff
right.
like that. Yeah.
Right. So what they do is they get this money, they get in a van and they take off and they drive. They drive to a house on Evans and they park it in a vacant garage. And the vacant garage, they had in there, and they're all getting out. This was a story from the statements of when they were interviewed, when they were arrested. They get out, they're high-fiving each other. They got, now it was reported $6 million, but we heard a lot more than that. We heard more like $10 or $12 million. So they're high-fiving each other. What they didn't realize is that the door is locked behind you in the armored car, so they can't get back in the armored car. So they spend a couple hours breaking through the side window of the driver's side to get their arm through, to pull out unlock it and get in, and they finally did. And this is what is the break in the case for the ATM Solutions. They get all the money out. They start now they're going to go dump the van, the armored car, and there's a 300 behind it. Well, this 300 is driving through over there by Van Deventer and all that kind of stuff in Evans, and a woman sees an armored car with broken windows and a gray 300 behind it. She calls 911. Well, the 300, they drop it off, the 300's gone, and they dump the van. Well, that all led to, later on, Roger Murphy and his partner who passed away, I can't think of his name right now.
Brett Cassidy?
No. It was another, anyway, they put a description out of the car. Well, they jumped the car, and John Wesley Jones is driving it. He jumps out. He goes, and they catch him. They go to the trunk. They open it up, and there's a bunch of money in there. So the marshals, U.S. Marshals, were involved because this is a federal thing. FBI. They initially did everything. They caught John Jones. They caught the other 3 guys, but they didn't catch Myron Kimble, and he was hard. But then Violent Offenders had a CI into Myron. So that's where Myron Kimble came in. But he was not part of that day. But they paid Myron Kimble a bunch of money to keep his mouth shut because he was the mastermind, but he wasn't there on the robbery. So they sent us out to get Myron. In the meantime, John Wesley Jones escapes from the Justice Center. Tells a nurse, hey, I got $1 million sitting in the car or sitting in the house. I'm going to give it to you if you help me get out of the St. Louis County or St. Louis City Justice Center. So that he gets escaped. So then now we're looking for Jones and Kimble. Well, Jones gets picked up by the marshals again, and we'll go back to that.
Did she get her money?
She did not. She got prosecuted and put in prison.
Okay, good.
So that proves what's going to happen when you kind of get bribes. So Myron Kimble becomes a big deal. We're looking for him. We get a CI says, hey, listen, his kid's having a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese in South County. Oh. So we're like, okay, we're going to go set up on Chuck E. Cheese in South County at 7 o'clock, and so we go out there and we're all set up. Well, I don't know if you remember, but we had transitioned an old seasoned narcotics unit into a new unseasoned narcotics unit. Lieutenant Berg was the commander, and we brought them out because we were going to send them into Chuck E. Cheese, wait for him to arrive, then we're going to take him off. We're going to take him off when he comes out of Chuck E. Cheese. We're going to keep all civilians out. We weren't going to do anything in Chuck E. Cheese. That was we knew what we were doing. So he shows up in a black Escalade, gets into the Chuck E. Cheese, and of course, all the young narcotics guys and girls are playing games right next to him, looking at him, staring at him. They have no kids. He gets hinked up right away. He's out the door running for the.
Oh, he's already in pursuit, almost.
He's running where no one's came in to do the swoop on. He runs for the car. We're like, oh, we're burned. So we all go in. We got his car blocked in. He goes straight out on a limber through a tree, and the chase is on. We go right to 55 or 255 into Illinois, and we lose him. And now it's getting dark. It was daylight. Now it's dark. Well, we're set up on the bridges, and here he comes back. He's coming back, and someone picks him up. So I pick him up on Van Deventer. I lose him again. He gets into Forest Park, and there's a traffic officer. He's on him because it's going all points at this point. We got a ATM Solution guy. It's going crazy. He crashes his car, his Escalade, into Jefferson Lake in Forest Park. Gets out.
Oh, the one at the end of Hard Hill?
Well, no, not that one.
Okay.
It's more towards Kings Highway.
Okay.
Gets it, and he crashes his car, gets out, and runs. And the traffic officer, just watch him runs eastbound and towards Kings Highway. So we all hurry up and get there. I'm mad because it's my case. I'm mad. I'm like, I can't believe you just let him run away. We pull his car out, and it must have been where all the fish are, because all these fish are flapping in the car. And there's 2 pistols on the dash. So we lose him. He runs to a bus station, gets on a bus, and he's watching us look for him and stuff like that. And goes, so I was mad. So now I had a mission. I had to get Myron Kimble. I had to find Myron Kimble. J.D. McCloskey had a real good CI and said, hey, listen, he has a girlfriend in Illinois. It's over there by St. Clair Mall, and she gives us address. So we're driving over there to get set up. And as we're driving up there, he's passing us. We see him. He's really good about knowing when the cops are around, stuff like that, because, some people were turning around when they shouldn't have. You know how being in covert units, that's how it happens.
Right.
Bumper beepers, that kind of thing that we call certain people. Anyway, he's on it. So he and a helicopter's up, and we're watching him. He goes right to St. Clair Mall in Fairview Heights. He drives right up to the steps. He jumps out of the stolen van and runs into the mall. I'm right behind him. I'm running the mall. Here we are. We're running through the mall. People are like, what the hell? We get to Macy's. We're running through Macy's. I can see him go, and he goes into a bathroom. So we go into the bathroom, and Joe Cruz is not far behind me. We get into this bathroom. It's a woman's bathroom. I get the door open. He's fighting. He's resisting. He's throwing punches. We get him to the ground. We finally get him handcuffed. And now we hear a lady yelling in the stall. She's, oh my God, what's going on? Blah, stuff. She was actually in the bathroom stall while we're all doing all this. So we ended up getting him custody. We take him out, and then we couldn't find the guns. We knew he was always armed. He was a very violent person. We couldn't find it, all that kind of stuff. Well, the cleaning crew of Macy's finds 2 stolen pistols in a purse, and Macy's calls us, and we go back and sees it. And he actually ended up getting 26 years.
Wow.
So he was 26 years for the ATM Solutions, and he was a felon in possession, all that kind of good stuff. But it was the Chuck E. Cheese.
Did he dress up as a gal at one point?
Yes, he was wearing a wig and he was wearing girls' outfits and stuff like that. But he had gotten this girl. It was a dancer over East St. Louis. Gave him this Escalade, and we were on it. We thought we had him at Chuck E. Cheese, and that's
not a good place a good place to take down a suspected robber.
Right, and if you know how focused I am, and JK knows how focused I am, when I know that he's right there in our grasp, and someone's watching him run away, a policeman watches him run, it irritated me pretty badly.
Did any of the money get away?
Yes, a lot of the money was not recovered.
A lot of the Chuck E. Cheese tokens weren't recovered either.
Well, I think you give, that was a lot of hard work was done by intelligence in that case, and I know it was Patrick Drennan,
Yeah.
and Brett Cassidy.
Yes.
And I know that they were feeding you guys the information that you guys needed to go get all those guys, weren't
Yes. Yes, they were.
they? And Brian McGlynn was involved,
Yep.
and I know Tommy Malachek was involved. Actually, the gal that called the police, she is Malachek was the one that went first got her, and she was a probation officer in South County.
Really?
And he went and picked her up, and he goes, "Yeah, they want you back at the scene." She's like, "Well, I got to work." And then she brought her back, and then Tommy tells this story that she said it was a 300, right?
Yeah.
Well, they pulled another car over at one point in time that they thought might be involved, and so they take her by, and he says, "Is that the car?" She goes, "No, that's not the car." Well, and then Tommy tells her, "Well, we'd like to do this." She goes, "No, that's not what I told you it was." And he goes, "Well, we just got to cover our bases." She goes, "Listen, I've lived in the ghetto for 25 years. She goes, "I know every single car by name, year."
Wow.
She goes, that's what we know that.
No kidding.
It was a break in the case. Like, that was a big deal.
Wasn't there something said about there was so much, they didn't expect to get that much money. They were shocked by how much money was actually
Yes.
there, and they had a hard time, like, hiding it.
Because is that associated to a bank, or how does that work? I mean, I don't know if you know that because you didn't get involved in the intricacies of the investigation, but
Well, I know that they refill up, because all those vans did was, all they did, ATM Solution, it was go around the St. Louis metropolitan area and refill ATMs. That's all their job was. So they never took money to banks, nothing like that. It was just, hey, I'm refilling it. And every once in a while, there would be a big armor, like a federal big armor truck, come to this little cinder block garage.
Are you serious?
And drop off all this.
That is, whatever company came up with that needed to be out of business.
whoever their top security guy is, he needs to be fired.
Right.
Well, just so you guys know, ATM Solution is still around.
Wow.
Is it? But the guy that ran that
maybe-
building has probably
maybe-
been fired.
Yeah.
But
Big
how did they know that was filled with money? Did Myron know that?
Well, they always thought it was an inside job, but the FBI could never prove it, so we don't know.
Okay. That is some good ass luck there if you're a criminal, because their original plan was just to fill another car, right?
Yes.
But then they hit so big that they had to take the van with them.
Yes, and they had to, and so they had this garage, this vacant garage picked out that they could fit the van in and all that kind of stuff, and that's where it kind of went downhill. And they had a great plan going into it. They just didn't have a good exit plan.
What did they do to the guards that they accosted?
All they did was tie them up, and they didn't assault them or anything like that, and left them there.
Did they use duct tape, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Yeah. Did they use rope too, or just duct tape?
I don't know about the rope. I know duct tape.
Now, did you show up to the original scene, or did you just got in because we need Wasem to go get these guys?
It was, hey, the marshals already got these guys, and John Jones just escaped, and then Myron Kimble still out there, and they, I was in Violent Offenders at the time, and they knew that we had some CIs in the Myron already from that, because Myron was kind of up from that St. Louis Vanderventer area, and we had some good CIs up there. But the best part of John Wesley Jones, they were so worried that he was going to escape again from the St. Louis Justice Center. Myself, Joe Custard, the warrant fugitive people from St. Louis City, and 2 marshals went to the Justice Center at 2 a.m., pulled them out, and we convoyed, armed, all the way to the federal penitentiary in Kentucky. Dropped them off and came back.
Your problem now in Kentucky? Yeah. Escape now. You won't know where you're going.
Once the cruiser with him in it went through those gates, the federal penitentiary in Kentucky, we're like, okay,
It's no longer your problem.
we're going
That
back.
was a booming endorsement for the Justice Center.
Yes. Yes. We're going to take them to Kentucky. Thanks for your help.
Yeah.
But another interesting case that we're going to go to is you had a couple bank robbers. You just had the ATM Solutions, but now we'll go to some bank robbers that you nabbed back in the day. Tell us a little bit about that.
This is just one of those cases that fell into my lap pretty much because, like being in the fugitive squad, we would go out and I would sit on houses and watch it and do pre-surveillance before we would try to do an arrest in the morning, because we always went out early in the morning and we would try and do an arrest. So I would go see what the house looked like, what cars are parked, to see some activity, maybe see our target, that kind of thing. And I was off of Arkansas and Chippewa doing some surveillance, and I was actually heading back to headquarters, and I was stopped at a red light at Gravois and Grand, just sitting there. And all of a sudden, all points come out, and it's about this bank robbery that happened at Chippewa and Hampton, the Commerce Bank, and they're talking about shots being fired and all this kind of stuff. And it's coming up there, it's coming down Gravois, from the scene. They've lost it. The helicopter's up, and they describe it as a white Mustang with a black top. And I pull into the turn lane. I just sit there, and I go, it's coming towards me. I know it is. And here it comes, up Gravois, right to Grand, makes a left turn on Grand to go northbound, makes another left turn to go Potomac, and I'm on it. I'm right behind it. I'm on it, and I have a police shirt in my front seat. I put it on,
Yeah.
and so I'm behind them. They pull in. As soon as they get on Potomac, they turn right into the alley, and they get right behind the Taco Bell right there on Grand, and they're behind like 3506 Grace. And they're looking at the helicopter up, and they're getting all this money in the bag, and they're getting it out of the car. They only know I'm right behind them, and I'm just watching them. They're on the passenger side. They're handing the money off. And they run down the gangway. And there's a fence, and they were trying to get into a yard. So one guy gets over the fence, and they're handing over the money, and they're handing over the guns. And all of a sudden, I'm coming down. I go, "Police, stop!" And they looked at me like, "What?" I got one guy on one side of the fence. I got one side of the other fence.
Uh-oh.
And this guy's not armed, but this guy has guns, and he drops the money but doesn't drop the guns. So I shoot twice. Boom. I miss him. He ducks down, runs down the gangway out of sight. I keep this one in custody right here. All of a sudden, this lady pops out of the backyard of the house. And I'm like, ma'am, call 911, tell me your address, tell me you have a policeman with a guy at gunpoint in your backyard. Because I didn't know where Grace, I didn't know Grace at that point. I was like, So she calls 911. So all the police get to me. We get all the money. We get the guns. The guy that got away, I missed when I shot twice. He kicked in a door. They have a house that was for sale, and they catch him and they bring him back and we identify him. Well, the lady that came out to call 911 is the mom of the guy that ran away.
Oh, wow.
So they were going in there to put the money away?
Rasheen Davis and Terrell Davis and Rasheen Johnson were the two guys, and they got time for bank robbery and stuff like that. But it was a pretty violent bank robbery. They got on the counters, they shot to the roof and all that kind of stuff, and it was pretty violent. But it's just one of those times where I was in the right place, right time. I got in behind it, and
But it's instincts too, like you
yeah,
said. I'm just going to sit here, and that everybody that's been through Grand and Gravois,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean that's like the intersection of all get out. You got the White Castle there, and it's the thoroughfares to go everywhere. Between Gravois and Grand.
It was a phenomenal just having to be in the right place, and they never, until I said something, they didn't know I was 10 feet away from them. They didn't know I was right there. So
That's awesome.
It worked out.
Glad you had your gun on you.
I did.
Right.
And a police shirt.
It kind of reminded me of the time that me and Leo did one, and we didn't have our vest on, and got a guy for murder. His name I don't know, Davidson. I forget his first name, but we had our vest, over our seats. We didn't have them on. Well, what got the guy we were just following him, but he's kind of hawking us. But what got him going is when we flipped our vest over from the back, because we'd leave the back on.
Right, I do the same
And
thing.
then when we flipped them vest over, we might as well put the light up. But then moving on, the next story I wanted to get to, because this was going to be good, because it involves the 2000 block of DeSoto, which is one of my favorite blocks in the entire city. The Hackney House is there, and the Hackney House is known to every single policeman that's ever been through the 5th District. Give us a little bit about what you about your little surveillance on the 2000 block of DeSoto.
I will, because I came out in the 5th District, which is probably one of the best districts to learn as a young policeman. And the 2000 block of DeSoto was where I cut my teeth as a policeman. They were selling heroin, hand over fist, and it was the Hackney family. 2048 DeSoto was Grandma Hackney, and everybody went there. That was home base. If the police came, they could go inside. Grandma would throw up some interference, but she was always cordial to me. She let me do things and stuff.
She was
like
very
that.
nice.
Yeah, she was very nice. She has since passed away, but she was always good to go. So we came up with this idea. Actually, Major Howard and Steve Dodge, and I thought, hey,
What unit were you in?
I was just in patrol.
Okay.
I was in the 5th District, and they're like, hey, we're gonna do some work up there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna dress you up in all black, and we're gonna put you out in the field.
This is whose idea is this? Is this Howard's or Dodge's idea?
I think they came up collectively together.
Okay.
And they're like, hey, how can we torment this young guy? He's out there making arrests, whatever. But hey, we're gonna use him to our benefit. Let's just go stick him in a field for 6 to 8 hours, and he can just call it out. He can say, because the whole plan was, hey, I was going to covertly sit somewhere.
So there's plenty of empty houses there that you can maybe crawled up in. Their idea was to put you in the weeds on a vacant lot.
Well, put me on a garage or a roof, but that didn't work out because I didn't have a clear view. So I had to climb down off that, and Dodge picked me up, and we went on the other side of the street where I could climb into the grass, and I'm sitting there in the grass and stuff like that. And the whole idea was, hey, he's going to call out the dope actions, because what DeSoto runs east from West Florissant. So all the clients, all the people buying dope would come down. They would come down the one way. They would come out, do the deal, but they always moved around their dope and stuff like that. So, and I saw that, but that day must have been a slow day. There wasn't a lot of activity. The things I saw, they had a guy come out, it was DeSoto Street Hustlers is the gang name, DSTs.
Yep.
They had a guy come out of a house, and they all beat him up. He got jumped in that day. I watched him get jumped in. In the middle of the street, they beat him up, they take him back in the house, and about 10 minutes later, they come out, and they're all hugging, and high-fiving. And back in the day, in that 2000 block of DeSoto, there was a guy that ran the set. His name was Donnie White. His nickname was Cash. Everyone knew Cash. He ended up going down for a RICO case years later. But he was driving around in a Mustang convertible and just ripping it up and down, up and down. And every once in a while, there would be someone to come buy heroin, and they go to somewhere. Well, there was one guy, his name was Calvin Burgess, and he was driving around too, but he kept on going to his gas cap to get the drugs or whatever to sell. And so at one point, Major Howard and Dodge decided, hey, we're going to call it, Mobile will stand by, we're going to go down and swoop all the DeSoto and see what we get. We go down there, and they got it hidden pretty good. We don't get nothing. So I'm like, hey, well, there's a guy driving around in the car with it in a gas cap. And I call it out, and they stop the car. They open the gas cap. I'm like, I hope there's a bunch of heroin. And it's like, it was about maybe 5 or 10 bags of weed.
I was there that day, and I remember everybody was kind of laughing about it. They said, "How'd this go down?" I said, "Wasem, they've dressed in all black. He's been hiding in the woods for hours."
And it was, I thought, because they have a pretty good scheme. They knew how the police were, unless you were, we didn't have covert cars and all like that. So we're district guys. We're just trying to, trying to think outside the box. And I was on the roof and I couldn't see, so I climbed down, and Dodge picked me up, and he takes me on the other side. And it was this big, long grass between two vacant houses, and I had a great view. So I just sat there, and I had binoculars, and I had a radio, I had my gun on me, and black sweat hoodie and a black sweatpants.
They should have at least got you a Gila suit.
This makes all the sense in the world to me now. It's clear, because when Dodge took over SWAT, and then he brought me in. And he was really wanting to bring Wasem in. So he was all, he gets all fired up about officers. We got to bring Wasem. We got to bring Wasem. He's like, we're all like giving him trouble. Like, man, I know he's a good officer, but Jesus, are you in love with him or something or what? So he brings him in, and he's great. Good police, he had a great reputation. But Dodge was hell bent on bringing him to Mobile, or to SWAT Mobile. So fast forward, we have search warrants at the Hackney House Hackney House. We used to call him nickname Hackney House of Ignorance, and so he was new. He was on the outside, this perimeter. So we do a search warrant on the Hackney House, and those houses have a kitchen. It goes down a few steps. You can go out the side door. You can go to the basement.
Yep.
So we went down. We cleared the basement. We're coming up, and we're kind of like done. We cleared the house ready, and someone goes, "Hey, what's in this door?" And like they didn't know what this was, and we knew Wasem was out there. Dodge goes, "No, Wasem's out there." You got like all panicked, like Wasem, not hurt him. Man, we gave Dodge so much trouble for that.
The funniest part about that is, though, I wasn't out there. I was in the living room. I was actually I was in the room. But the worst part of that whole scenario is through my career I never lived that down. Wasem's out there. Wasem's out there.
No, Dodge never lived that down.
Yeah, they could have, like I said, they could have gave you one of them Gila suits, where the Army uses, where you.
Well, I had
to vegetation.
I had been sitting out there all day. I was tired. I was disappointed, and I wanted to go home. And back those days, you really had to get approval to do a PAW, the pending application of a warrant, and it was just a weed. And I'm like, I pleaded with the lieutenant at that time. It was Lieutenant Howard. I'm like, hey, listen, can we just paw him? And they're going back and forth. And finally, they let me paw this Calvin Burgess. I'm like, thank God. I didn't want to write it that night. I had to apply in the morning on
go home.
I was so disappointed.
I need to get out of this black suit.
Yeah, bug bites everywhere.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Marc, and then we're gonna end this with your favorite arrest that you've made, and then I think you do. His name is Michael Glover. Tell us a little bit about that arrest and how it went down.
Michael Glover, a.k.a. Born Talim Bey. He was part of the Muish Temple guys, and he was a fugitive. He was wanted at the time. He actually had a hard warrant for shooting at a St. Louis County policeman when they tried to arrest him for a domestic. So we knew he had it out there. Well, another person calling 911 saying, "Hey, listen, this guy's wanted for shooting a policeman, and he's in his house on Enright, 5347 Enright." So we get up there. I knew the name. We get up there. We call the district, tell them to stay away, and we start watching it. The first thing I saw up there when we got up there is that all the windows were tinted on the house, like a car, like a heavy tint. And we're like, "Oh, that's thing." And then, so we got confirmation that he was still in there. So Lieutenant John Applegate gave me Joe Custer and the rest of the crew the green light to go do a knock and try and get this guy into custody after we watched the house for hours. We go up there, knock. We hear movement inside. I peek in and I see our target, Michael Glover, Born Talim Bey, and he runs back to a back bedroom. Custer turns to Lieutenant Applegate and say, "It's a primary address. We know he's in there. He's got a hard warrant." So we breach the door. And we're met by a pit bull. And the pit bull is, Joe immediately gets out his mace and does the little thing to the pit bull, and it retreats back to the back of the house. We go into the bedroom where he's hiding in his closet, and we handcuff him. We take him into custody. It's Michael Glover, and we're standing, and there's closet racks, and there's assault rifle here, assault rifle there, assault rifle there. They're all over, and we knew he's a pretty bad guy, several time convicted felon. So we hold the house. I run down to the AUSA. I get a federal search warrant, and we come back. And we're searching the house, and we're finding more guns. But we're not.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick, just to point out that they had an arrest warrant for the guy.
Yes.
And a lot of times when you guys go in and do these arrest warrants, there might be a pistol laying on the ground. But when it's something like that, you don't want to take the chance of blowing the case on all the good stuff that you're seeing in plain view by just taking it and walking out on an arrest warrant. That just muddies everything up.
Yes.
So what you did was back out of that house, not search it anymore, knowing that you saw stuff in plain sight, and you put that in your search warrant to further the case, correct?
Right, and that's what and Joe Custer was great at it. I learned from him, but it was like, hey, when we go in these fugitives' houses, we know that they're bad people. Like we're not going after people that are wanted for nickel and dime crimes. These are violent felons that we're going after, the worst of the worst. So if we get in there and we see something, we're gonna make another case on these people. We're gonna actually take it to the attorneys and try and get them issued. And when we see something like that, so many guns and such a violent person, and he's got a warrant for shoot at the police, we're going to treat that like it's going to be a big deal. So we don't even go to state court. We go straight to the feds. We write an affidavit. I go see a judge, and we come back. Michael's been taken down into custody. We go in the house, and we're finding guns and stuff like that, but we're not finding anything. And he was a high-level dope man. We knew that he was a high-level dope man. Lots of kilos. He had lots of money, all that kind of stuff. We couldn't find anything. All of a sudden, we move a dresser away from the wall, and there's a little hole in the back, and there's a void. Little we know, we lift up this mirror on this dresser, and inside this hidden compartment. And inside the hidden compartment is more guns, $197,000, 2 kilos of heroin, and all the good stuff. Wow. And we take pictures of
in a Crown Royal bag.
Yeah. Oh. But the money and his trafficking and all that kind of stuff. And then he went on to do a bunch of stuff, talking on the jail tapes and stuff like that. I mean, he's another one that Tom Ray prosecuted, and the AUSA Tom Ray, and he ended up getting, I believe, 30 years for what he did. Or it might have been Mike Riley that got him.
They were partners. They were running buddies. So.
I think it was Mike Riley.
Right.
Because one of the best attorneys ever. He did my first federal case.
So did Custer teach you all the tricks of fugitive apprehension?
Yeah.
Did you guys ever use the employment scam?
No, I know about it, but we never used it.
Heffley did that one time, and Joe Speece used to do it too. And we were sitting on a house, and the guy had a warrant on him for robbery second. A hard one, like you said, a hard warrant. You can breach houses if you know they're in there. And Heff called into the house, and And the mom answers the phone, and whatever the guy's name is we'll use Myron. Is Myron there? No, he's not here. And he goes, well, that's unfortunate. He goes, this is such and such employment agency. He said, we got a really good job that's lined up, and paying $25 an hour. $25 an hour. Hold on a second. Hey, Myron, Myron, you got a phone call. So they call Myron to the phone, and Myron gets on, and Heffley, hey, just real quick, what's your date of birth? We'll get you, and then you need to come down to, I think he said 1500 block of South Kings Highway or whatever. And he gets all the information, and so now we know he's in there. We call the troops. We go in. We make the house. We knock. We didn't kick the door in there. Knock on the door. We ask Mama, is Myron in here? No, he ain't in here. Yeah, he is. And then just walk past her because we know he's in there. And we ended up getting him in a closet. We ended up bringing him out, and the mom says, God damn, he just got a good job.
Yeah, Joe Custer taught me 2 big points on fugitives. Do the homework and patience. Those are the 2 things that get you.
I was thinking that you have to have patience of Joe to do that job.
Yeah.
And they get up early and sit on it and do their thing every day. So, but I don't know if we can.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to tell a story that it was so nice to know him and having his number in my phone. A good friend of mine's son, and we could talk about it later, but I'll tell it now. His son he just graduated law school. He was studying for his LSAT. He went to the Wheelhouse, which is a bar right outside of Busch Stadium. It's a pretty popular spot. Still is a popular spot. It was right around the end of COVID era, so they started going back in the bars. But so someone hit the alarm in the bar, and everybody had to leave. So they're all outside on the parking lot. And I saw the video later, but this kid him and his brother there, just great kids. And this guy comes up for some reason. He didn't like who he was talking to or whatever, and he sucker punches him. He hits him so hard, knocks him out. He lands, hits his head on one of the parking things, concrete parking thing, and gets his skull cracked or whatever. And so he's in bad shape, but he's recovered. Now he's a lawyer, but all worked out. But so we find out who it is, and he's got a wanted on him. And Marc explained that to me earlier. I didn't understand why at first, but. So I asked Marc. I'm stationed during COVID. I'm in the basement of the academy, and so but in the academy the gym was closed. So I would go up there at lunch and walk the academy and listen to my radio. So I call him. He said, "I'm going to look at this. I'll look for it for a couple of days. I have other stuff to do, but I'll give you a shot." So it goes how many days? 2 or 3?
It was like 2 days.
2 days, and he calls me and says, "Hey, we're going to give it one more try, and then I got to move on." I said, "I appreciate you even doing what you did, whatever," and so. All of a sudden, he calls me. I believe he calls me and says, "We got him over in Illinois," and you kind of take it from here. But and I'm going to tell my ending of how it went. But so
well, we did some work up on this guy. He did have a wanted, and he was over in Illinois, which is across the border. So we can't just go. We knew where he was. We watched his house. We watched him walk in and out and stuff like that. But we couldn't just take him into custody because it was another state, and we couldn't bring him back and all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, you call me and tell me that. And so, but he's over there, and you're watching him on whatever house he's at. He's in the house, and so we just need him. He calls me and said, "We just need him to come over in the Missouri side." So I call my buddy, his dad, and say, "Hey, they got him. They're going to try to get him. He's got to come over to Missouri, and I don't know if we're going to do it. He's got one more day to do this because he's got other cases, but I'll let you know what happens." So I'm walking the track, and all of a sudden I'm listening to the radio. So he said he's in his car. He's going back to Missouri side. So I'm like, yes, he's going back to Missouri side. So he crosses the bridge, and they're calling. I'm listening to all the transitions between the officers. And so he goes down to Broadway, I believe, and I don't know what street he turns on, but South Broadway, and he parks, and he gets out of the car, and he opens the trunk and does some stuff. And all of a sudden I hear one of the detectives say, "Hey, he's out of his car," because he went inside, I think, for a minute, and he came back out. He's out in front. So then I hear Marc say, I'm coming down the street now. So I know he's outside. I hear Marc, he's going down the street, and then everything goes quiet. And I'm walking this track holding this thing. I'm like, "You got to get him, you got to get him, you got to get him." And all of a sudden, I know that because it's quiet, that they're probably dealing with him. And all of a sudden I hear, "We got him." I'm like, yeah, I'm so excited, dude. And I was like walking around, I'm by myself, I'm yelling it. I'm like, "Yes, he got him, thank God." And so then I called my buddy, and I called him on the phone. I said, "We got him." He's like, "Oh, thank you, that's so awesome." He was so proud, and he made me look like a big shot, and I appreciated that he did that. But it was nice having Marc his phone number in your, because you could always call him.
Yep.
And you knew he would do it.
Everybody called him.
Right.
But what we're going to do is Mark's not done telling stories, but this is our Monday edition. This has come out on Monday. If you want to hear a couple more Mark stories, go back and listen to our live show that we're going to start here in about 20 minutes. And the other thing is, if you want good security, who would you call, JJ?
I'm not sure. No, Campbell Security.
And how do you get a hold of them?
Call Campbell Security.
CampbellSecurityGroup.com.
There you go.
There you go.
I never do that.
I don't know. I asked you a question you didn't know.
But
That was on me.
No, but here's the thing, that when Mark got up every day before he'd go on his job, he'd go to Prime Performance.
Well, he probably still does.
He does.
He knows Jim Worm.
He'd get a B12 shot, and that's what gave him the stamina to do his thing.
It's compressed, and unfortunately, wasn't around when in the day that he had to lay on the ground at the direction of Dodge and Howard.
Correct.
And just lay there. And was it hot out?
It was hot.
Yes.
And they put you in black.
I was in black, so I could.
Good God,
Wait,
Howard.
But first, no.
This is cruel and unusual punishment to put an officer in the ground in
young
black
officer.
in the middle of summer in the middle of a field.
Hey,
What were you thinking?
He was just earning his stripes early on as a young officer.
Good God.
But where do you go to 44 Fenton Plaza in Fenton, Missouri to go to Prime Performance? Or you go to 1222 Central Park Plaza in O'Fallon, Illinois.
I go to O'Fallon, Illinois.
There you go.
Nope.
Okay.
And then gets he was on his way to get Myron that day, St. Clair.
Right.
Got off, got Myron, and then got his B12 shot.
There you go.
All right, that's it. That's it for this interview. And if you want more of Mark, good to tune in to our live show, like I said, which would already be out. And we're going to talk about a couple more personal stuff, like his father,
Yes.
being a legendary homicide detective and stuff like that. So
Phil the Thrill.
That's right.
that was his name. All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
And communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live. Peace.
Cut that.